for example, what I think will be different compared to last cycle, because people think like, okay, it's diminishing returns, right? So it will be a less increase than previous cycle, and previous cycle did more or less a 25x, more or less, from the bottom, right? 3,000, we hit 3,000 in the bear market, then got like to 60K plus.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Today in the studio, I'm here with Quinten, which is a lot of things, author, Web3 entrepreneur, one of the OG YouTuber actually, Bitcoin researcher, investor. Your Twitter account, by the way, is one of my absolute favorite. You know, we have a live show, and if I had a penny for every time I had your Twitter account in my show, I'll be a millionaire. So how are you doing, man?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I'm doing very well. Happy to be here.
Good to have you in the studio. We met the first time, I think it was in Singapore.
Yeah, actually not too long ago.
Finally, I had the pleasure of meeting you because, like I said, I've been watching your content for so long. And finally, off the crazy plane that we took from Dubai to Singapore, we managed to shake hands and say hi to each other, which is really nice. What's your story in crypto, or specifically or in Bitcoin? Because your journey is super interesting.
I was like, I think very, very early with being a KOL. But to go back a little bit more, I actually started investing when I was only 16 years old, which was illegal in Belgium. So hopefully I don't get like... in trouble. Yes, nobody's coming after me for like having an investing account. Anyway, no, I did it under the name of my parents. So I started investing in stocks and so on when I was 16. And then when I was 21... I found out about crypto because I was very active on these forums and so on because of investing in stocks. And I saw like crypto and first of all, very, very skeptical. I think like many people like, what is this? How can I calculate some ratios for this stuff, you know? But then quickly when I did like a deep dive at the end of 2016, a deep dive into it, I saw like the potential of it. And actually not long after that, I could combine my passion for entrepreneurship, which I was already doing for a long time as well. Like it was not much, but like little projects such as designing logos for DJs. I had a music project and some other startup kind of ideas. And I mean, like I could combine these two with my YouTube channel because I saw like, okay, this is like something the market needs. Personally, I am doing 3 days of research into something. And I thought like this needs to be easier for people. So I started making YouTube videos of 10, 15 minutes of everything that I researched for days. And that's actually how it started. And there was like April 2017 that I started my YouTube channel. And just 2 months later, I was already doing it full time.
Incredible. And by the way, you have so much value and you add so much value in this space. Like I said, I mean, your Twitter account, X, I should say, I never get around it. It's one of my go-to. So thank you so much for pulling out all those amazing datas and facts about ETFs and all these things that are happening to Bitcoin. And you've probably seen it basically all. So what is the most interesting from you about Bitcoin?
The most interesting thing about Bitcoin, I think it has so many interesting things, obviously. But I just think, which is the most relevant in recent years as well, is the max supply that Bitcoin has. I think this is the single most important thing. And also just because like this inflation number that we all know about, it is programmed into it. And that gives people certainty, and people like certainty. And I think this is probably like maybe a few years ago I would have said something else, but we all know that there was like a huge inflation in the past few years. During the Corona crisis, they printed money
like never before.
Yeah, like never before. And I think like right now people should start realizing this is the single most important thing in Bitcoin, the max supply combined with the certainty that is in the code.
21 million, and I like to think, I don't know if you agree with me here, but it's not 21 million actually, because some have not mined yet, but also some have been lost forever. Mm-hmm. And there's people that are trying to figure it out how much is the total supply. I think it's 17, 16, somewhere in the region.
16, 17 is also what I hear about.
And also there is people like you and me, which we probably won't sell some of it. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see when the supply shock is going to kick in, because every 4 years, guys, you know, there's this thing called the halving, right? It doesn't take effect immediate. It takes some time. Now with the ETF.
Exactly. And I think like you touched on some interesting things. Like, first of all, we always see like a lag between the halving and when the real fun starts. And usually it takes, let's say, between 90 and 180 days. And right now we are actually there. So we are like 6 months after the halving, more or less. So actually it should start right now. And I think people start panicking a bit too early, like, hey, why is it not moving? Why is the halving not having its effect? But the halving, people already anticipated on that the months before. And basically what's happening right now is like the market is like stabilizing and preparing, or reaccumulation, let's say it like that, preparing for the next leg up, which is like we are perfectly on track for the cycle to play out how it always plays out. And I think that's very important to tell people like, okay, it's normal that the 6 months after the halving, not much happens, right?
Yeah, super well said. I mean, as of today, which is, I think, 18 of October, Bitcoin has done 140% return of a year in 360 days. So when people are impatient, I like to stop the music and say, guys, 140% in 365 days. If you can find me another asset who does that, I'm happy to discuss. Because like you said, the perception, especially on X and Twitter, everyone's like, oh, October is, or whatever, Pumptober is canceled. And I'm like, guys, patience.
Yeah, that's
patience,
true.
Right?
That's true. I mean, like part of that is, of course, like people are being just like sarcastic, right? I mean, but there are people who are indeed just too spoiled. I mean, crypto people are too spoiled. Like, hey, I only got like 140% since a year ago. I mean, like a traditional stock investor, he's happy with around 10% per year. And we're like complaining about 140%. That's actually insane. So we're just like too spoiled as well. But yeah, it's true. Like people are way too impatient. And I think everyone, probably including us, we feel that same thing because we were too spoiled last few cycles. It's like, maybe we're only going to get a 10x this cycle on our portfolio. Like, that is not too good. I mean, yeah, right.
As if it wasn't enough.
Yes, exactly.
Do you play with the cycles? Because of course we know, I mean, based on the data so far, right? There are those 4-year cycles. We have a pump, a dump at some point. Do you have a portion of your portfolio you use strategically to sell DCA out maybe when we go up?
Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing that I do. I don't actively trade. I do it a little bit, but it's literally with like 0.1% of my portfolio that I trade with, just to have more feeling with the market. That's the only reason why I trade a little bit of my portfolio actively, like day trading, swing trading, whatever. But most of my portfolio is just cycle trading. So it's like buying when I have the feeling like we're very close to the bottom of a bear market, and selling on our way up. So last 2 years, I didn't do anything, more or less. Like I bought a bit extra, like 2 years ago, more or less. But yeah, now I'm just waiting to start DCAing out in hopefully next year. So yeah, that's exactly what I do.
Nice. Yeah, same. I don't trade myself. I like to watch Carl and all those experts doing it. But to me, I invest. I have a 10, 12, even 20 years time frame. And I like to find good things, such as Bitcoin, and invest the heck out of it. And then in 10, 20 years, I'll stop and I'll see what I can do, you know?
How much do you usually sell percentage-wise of your portfolio during a bull market?
You're going to laugh at me now. I haven't sold anything yet.
No.
Anything. So I still have all the Bitcoin I've been purchasing through the years. And it's not like a flex, to be honest, because I wish I would at some point, either with a portion. So I had a chat with George Cryptozaras. Shout out to George, super amazing guy. And I kind of asked him, and he said, well, 30% cash is my sweet spot. I don't actually use much fiat, to be honest. In Dubai, really easy. You can be liquid in and out of crypto with no taxes.
Yeah.
So for me, as long as I have 10, maybe 20% in cash, that's my goal for this bull market, by the way, to get to a point where I will start next year. I mean, depending on what happens now in November and December, and of course a bit of October, but I'll probably start DCAing out. And I'm aiming to have I call it 4-bag strategy. So 1 bag is never touch, ever. So it's going to be there forever. It's like
either to 1 million or 0,
exactly.
But you're not going to touch that stuff.
Ride or die.
Yeah.
And it's a donation to the chain, because if you never spend your Bitcoin, you basically make it even more scarce. So that's my contribution to Satoshi. Never touch, never sell. And it's going to be 1. Second bag will be to allow me to survive for 4 years. It's my bag cycle, because a mistake I made on the previous cycle is I didn't consider how much money I need to spend to survive in 4 years. So that's my second bag, which is my allowance, I guess. And third bag is my kind of selling and buying bags, which I'm going to use to strategically DCA out, which is going to be 15 to 20%. And the fourth bag will be degen, filthy, altcoins, memes, whatever, casino moment. So this is my strategy. I don't have an allocation per se yet, but I know that the filthy bag will be the super smallest of them all, right? Because I like the casino vibe, but I also understand that it's just like super risky. So I don't dislike meme, and I want to ask you how you feel about it. But this is more or less my strategy, if it makes sense.
It's actually nearly one-on-one the same as me, to be honest. Yeah, I have like a bag, but it's I would say like in best case scenario, if all my targets will be hit next year, then I will probably only hold 25 to 30% of what I have right now that I will not touch, like never touch. And the rest, I will cash out next year. But for me personally, it's like 70% of my portfolio, 75% of my portfolio is Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink.
Nice, Chainlink.
Yes.
Smash it. And Marine. Let's go.
Yes. And also like artificial superintelligence now joined that club, but I will not calculate them with the three of them. But actually it became bigger than Chainlink at this point. It's like very, very close anyway. But so my second part is like the altcoins that can increase more than 10x, let's say it like that. Of course, more risk involved. And then same thing as you, like my third back is also something that I play around with and like a little bit of trading here and there. And then the fourth bag is like same as you, actually, like the Degen bag.
Filthy bag.
Yes. It's literally, I would say maybe max 3% or so of my portfolio, like very, very small. But that is, I mean, I know that 90% of these tokens will be worthless in 3-4 years from now. But if I have a few ones that do 100x, then it will like maybe double my portfolio, right? I had this in last cycle with, for example, Matic was a 100x of last cycle. BNB was a 100x of last cycle. And I had a third one, which I actually forgot right now. Anyway, there was a third one. So I had like 3 100x last cycles. And it was basically like this principle, like, okay, of course, BNB was pretty big. I cannot count them in the filthy bag. But yeah, I mean, for example, Matic was not even in the top 100 when I bought it. And when I sold it, it was like a top 10 coin. So yeah, you have some of these winners, but you need to realize like, okay, what you buy, that especially like the very, very small things, also pre-sales, meme coins. I don't do meme coins, but these things like 90% will go to zero, and people should realize that. But there's only one winner that you need between all of these, and it will make your cycle.
If you go back to the top 10 in the years, I mean, you've seen basically pretty much everything. Like you said so well, most of them has gone to zero. They don't even exist anymore. So it becomes a really risky play. But I like to have a bag that I use. It's like when we go to the casino, let's go to Vegas for a weekend. Why not? You know, I can have a cigar, drink some beer or whatever, and just whiskey maybe, and just throw
an amazing coffee, Mauricio. I mean, guys, best coffee ever.
Let's go. Coming from you means a lot. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you for the coffee.
When you talk to the camera, you talk to your audience, it's easy for the audience to just go all in, right? And when we say we have a small percentage, we actually mean it. And no financial advice, but I would just store my wealth, my money into Bitcoin. And whenever something that you do goes really well or doubles, you can do like Da Vinci said, you sell half when it doubles. So whatever happens, it's a free bag. This is what I do when I get into some filthy meme coins, which I've done lately because it's super fun. If you do it responsibly, when and if the meme coin doubles, well, I'll sell half, which means I got my investment back, and then whatever happens to the token, I'll let it ride, you know? So, yeah. But again, super tiny percentage. And it's funny because when I speak to people, I have some of my guests are extremely Bitcoiners, and some of my guests are degen meme coiners, and everyone seems to making fun of me because if you are a maxi, I'm a coiner, right? But if you are a coiner, I'm a maxi. So I'm in this kind of space where I'm thinking, well, Bitcoin is my money. Like, this is where I store my wealth. But I want to have fun. So I play with altcoins and memes.
I totally agree. And I think we have I think we have very similar approach to how we divide our holdings over different things. And I totally agree. I mean, like these small things that you buy that can potentially be a 100x, even sometimes 200-300x, whatever. This can also like increase your Bitcoin holdings. That is actually the goal, at least for me. Like I have my Bitcoin holdings, and of course I will also sell a little bit if it really raises in value, because I want to buy low again. But I mean, the goal with these small things is also to increase your wealth, and where will you store your wealth eventually is Bitcoin. So that is exactly, I have the same approach as you. I think also very important is to emphasize, like, if people talk about like buying like a very small thing like a meme coin or a pre-sale or so on, people should indeed like realize that we do that with a very, very small percentage of our portfolio, because that's total degen play. It's stupid to like even put 5 or 10% of your portfolio in something like this, right? And I don't think it's always very clear to people, so it's really good that we point that out.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for sharing it. That's 100%. And do you do anything else like gold, S&P, real estate, or you just like me, crypto? I mean, crypto. I don't think Bitcoin is crypto, but let's say Bitcoin only.
No, actually, I used to do, of course, like a lot of stocks. As I said, that was the start of my journey in investing anyway. But I think that the best way to do it for me is just to stick with crypto, because that is what I know most about right now. I still know quite a bit, and I follow, of course, like the macroeconomics and S&P 500 and whatever else, like stocks in general, but it's more to have like an outlook on crypto. I don't actively put money in it because I feel like I need a few hours per day to be actively on this. And otherwise, I don't want to touch it because my core focus is crypto, and that's what I know most about. So, of course, I want to do it like next cycle. I always say the same thing. Anyway, like, okay, next cycle I'm putting a bit in real estate. Next cycle I'm putting a bit in stocks again. But yeah, for now, my holdings in stocks is very small, and real estate. For now, I just own my own house, and that's about it. Yeah.
I sympathize so much with that because I literally have next to zero understanding for when it comes to real estate. I mean, okay, gold is simple. You buy gold, you store gold. But at that point, I'd rather have Bitcoin. I had a position in London of gold, but it wasn't fun when I moved to Dubai, to figure out how do I move it? Do I keep it in London? I'm in Dubai. I mean, it's not in my hands, so it's not mine. You know the drill. Real estate is really tricky because you don't know the area. You don't know what you're buying yourself. Literally no clue when it comes to anything else because like you, I spend all my time in Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, and otherwise I think it's a distraction from your focus. I think if you would have stocks, I mean like real estate, you don't need to follow up too much, but stocks, then you need to take time away from your Bitcoin focus or crypto focus in general. And this will automatically, I think, in my opinion, lead to making maybe less good decisions in crypto. And for what? For like small increase in stocks. So either I want to do like full focus on that as well, or not at all. I don't know if that's a good approach, but for me that feels the right way to go. And I mean, like in terms of real estate, I think an extra factor is, for me personally, I'm going to talk for me personally, is that I don't know the real estate market well enough to make good decisions. Like for example, in Europe, real estate prices, like in the Netherlands, in France, like these capitals, it's insane. London as well. I mean, they're having like multi-generational loans for their houses, and it's going insane. And now Belgium is starting up as well. So I think, I don't know, I don't even feel comfortable to put any money in real estate right now, except to say like, okay, I'm leaving it there for 20 years and I want the passive income. But like in terms of potential price increases, I don't know. Of course, I think it will, because there's a lot of factors that play a role there. But still, I just don't feel like too comfortable making that decision. And also, like, for example, other places, maybe Dubai is a good place to buy some real estate and rent it out. But yeah, I think personally, I don't know enough about it.
I agree. Super good point. And I also feel like the passive income that people go after real estate for, I think, you have an asset, which, I mean, the difference between asset and liability, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki teaches me that if you buy a property and you live in a property, it's not an asset, it's a liability. But let's say you buy a property and you rent it off, like you buy to let, for example, well, then that's an asset. But then you have to manage the properties and the tenants and some things break down. And if you find a company who manages, they take 20%. So the whole thing becomes kind of a headache. I've spoken to a lot of people, they've done real estate for super long time. And they say, look, real estate is a freaking headache. So whether Bitcoin, technically so far, you just have to hold it. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's so far superior. I mean, of course, and it's super liquid. I mean, good luck in selling a house. I mean, it takes time. Lawyers, banks, transfers, money. Bitcoin, you sell it on the spot.
True.
So
True.
It's superior to me.
Yeah, and there's other factors playing as well, because like what you say is definitely true. I think it's always a little bit of headache. It always takes a little bit of mental space, even though people say like, yeah, you don't need to do anything with it. I mean, like you still need to do some stuff with the real estate that you own, even though you're renting it out long term even. But for example, here in Dubai, I was thinking about, okay, should I buy some investment property in Dubai? But then I talk with people like real estate people here in Dubai. They say like, yeah, now this area is hot, but in a few years you need to sell it 3 years and go to another area. And I mean, like, I already got a headache talking with them. It's like, whoa, but I just want something and leave it there for 20 years and put someone in there who rents it like long term and that's it. But all these real estate people here, they just like want to flip their real estate and go to a new hot area and then the next one. And then, I mean, like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put any energy and mental space into that. I want to focus on crypto, where I know most about, and get my money from there, basically. And I can also get like passive income with staking my fetch or artificial superintelligence ASI tokens now. I can also get like a passive income there if I want to. Like, leave me alone with the real estate for now at least, except if I can put someone on there and say like, okay, you're in charge of like different places, but like for one place you also cannot like hire someone to do it. So I mean, like, it's complicated, I think.
I agree. I feel you, by the way. Like, we were discussing when the fire alarm was triggered downstairs, by the way, fun fact, that when I came to Dubai, they offered to buy, I was short-term renting because my wife was still in London. I didn't know if I wanted to stay. I was just testing out. And I stayed in the marina, in the Cayenne Tower, the Twisted Tower. And it was a one-bedroom apartment, beautiful apartment. And the owner said, well, if you want to buy it, I'm not going to say numbers, but it was extremely attractive. And now the property has gone up 5 times the value since 2021. Wow. So the market has been going crazy. Of course, we had a lot of people coming to Dubai for multiple reasons. You will see now that summer is kind of fading away. There's going to be so many people, so much traffic. And every time I look into my Twitter or whatever, the amount of people saying, move to Dubai is going up. And now, for some crazy reason, Italy has decided to increase
I saw that.
On Bitcoin taxes to 42%. And I have a bunch of friends saying, hey, what's Dubai? How's it going? So people are going to move. And at some point, there is people, like you said, in Dubai, they're saying, oh, Dubai properties are going up forever. I don't think anything is going up forever. At some point, it's going to stabilize or drop or whatever. And I don't have enough knowledge to trust and drop. And when you do, by the way, I don't know if you agree, but when you buy a real estate, if you made a mistake, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Like, you have to put down, I don't know, $500,000, for example. And if you buy the wrong property, well, then good luck in reselling it. It's not as liquid as Bitcoin. And I feel like sometimes, like, imagine someone who has no knowledge in crypto and they are coming in now and they don't know what to do. I mean, they could buy a rug pull, right? So that's why I'm like, as much as I love the idea of having no string attached and making passive income, I've been always hesitant on the matter.
But maybe it's interesting to talk a little bit further about the tax increase, because I think from Italy it went from 23% to 42%. So it's nearly doubled. It's crazy. And like, if you look to other places in Europe, the taxes on crypto are insane. Like, for example, for me in Belgium, it's not even clear in Belgium. Like, some of your assets can be taxed 0%, some 33%, some even up to 50%. Like, the rules are so unclear. I lived in the Netherlands for a few years. They also changed the tax regulation for crypto there. Portugal changed it, which was the best place in
the golden visa.
Exactly. And it's crazy now with the MiCA regulations. I think it's very interesting to see what will happen with the Web3 space in general, but I think it will all move out of European Union at this point, with the MiCA regulations coming up. Also, for example, for KOLs, the regulations that are coming into place, the rules that are coming into place in December is pretty much unworkable for any KOL. So they're pushing away all the talent, all the capital, and so on again, because they already did that at the end of the 90s during the .com and technology bubble. They did the same thing, and now they're now doing the same thing as back then. So all the innovation will probably come to Dubai, and this is maybe one of the reasons why your property, or like the suggestion of the property, went up with like 5x in the past 3 years.
Yeah, indeed, and super well said. By the way, I agree 100%, and I believe there's going to be some clear winners like El Salvador, maybe even Singapore. I think Singapore is friendly when it comes, still taxation, but not as heavily. And depending on what's happening in November in the US, we could see another major decision-making, because Kamala and Trump, they have very different policies. So that could also move away talent from the US. So to be honest, I like Dubai. I like living in Dubai, not just because of the taxation thing we were discussing on the lift. I think it's a good spot to be. It's safe, it's secure. You will see things like you go into a shopping mall and people go to the restroom and they leave everything on the table, from their phone to their computer, and they just go to the toilet. And I'm like, dude, are you okay? Like, nobody's touching these things. When we move on the Palm, me and my wife, we wanted to go and swim, right? So I was used to basically everywhere that what you do, you have a little bed with your towel, and then you have your belongings, like your phone, your wallet, and these things, and maybe a book. And then you think about, okay, how do we do it now? Do we do turns, or should we swim but not too far? And my neighbor the guy on the beach said, hey, you guys are new here, right? Just go and swim. No one is going to touch your stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is just so far-fetched.
Yeah.
So crazy to think about. And it's like, wow, like you see people, in JBR, keys into the Ferraris, Lamborghinis with bags of Louis Vuitton and money coming off Saturday night. Packed, streets are packed. So it's becoming really attractive. Mm-hmm. But also I believe, like you saying, Europe is choosing to do some interesting things. And I don't know what the UK, because the UK now has technically left Europe, so they'll do their own thing. But sometimes I read on the news like, oh, UK to become the new hub for crypto. And then 2 weeks later, they come up with some stupid legislations or law that doesn't even make sense. So
it's very interesting. And I think like you touch on very good points there as well, because I think like Dubai, it has a lot of advantages for crypto. Like safety is definitely one, tax is definitely one, but also just being a crypto person, being in European Union right now, business-wise and social-wise, it's very lonely, to be very fair. I mean, like, I just arrived a few days ago here, and my agenda is already packed. With like, I consider quite some people, not only like colleagues in the space, but I consider like friends, my new friends. All my new friends are here. Literally, like a few weeks ago, before I booked my stay here in Dubai, I went over my list on Telegram, and just thought to myself, like, okay, which person lives in Dubai or partially lives in Dubai? And it was literally 70% of that I consider my new friends in the space. So I think like socially and business-wise, it's amazing to be here as well. And yeah, I think they will just absorb all the talent, all the capital, and so on from the European Union, and potentially, like you said, the US, depending on the result there. I actually did like a poll yesterday. No political statements here, but you can clearly see who the crypto space wants to win, right? I did like a poll which got like a few thousand votes, and it was 94% voted on Trump and 6% voted on Kamala. Like very clear who is like the crypto guy in the US, right? And I agree. If Kamala wins, places like Dubai, Singapore will probably absorb some talent from there as well. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, here's the good news though. Like, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think whatever happens in the US in November 5th, which is the election date, I think Bitcoin is going to forget about it in 5 or 6 years. So when we look back in retrospective, it'll be like a bump, right? Because everyone is worried that Bitcoin is going to zero. And guys, we've seen them all, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but based on data, I feel confident in saying I don't actually care in the long term. Of course, the market is going to react. Like if Trump is going to win, we're going to pump. Mm-hmm. Easy. We're going to go over 100K, I think, before the end of the year. Whether if he loses, maybe we will, I don't know, stabilize, go down a little bit. But in the long time frame, I don't know if you agree, Bitcoin doesn't care.
I totally agree. And I also think, honestly, on election day itself, I don't even expect a pump or a dump, except if it's very surprising results. Because I think like now in the coming weeks, we have less than 4 weeks left. I think the 5th of November, the election is, right?
Yeah.
So we will see like closer and closer to the election, the result will become more and more clear. We see that, for example, in poly markets, the odds
changing,
of
60 to 40, right?
Yes, exactly. Already like 62 this morning for Trump against 38. So I mean, these odds are going to change, and Bitcoin price will already price that in. So if, for example, a few days before election day, it's clear that Trump would normally win, then I don't expect anything even to happen on the election day itself. Maybe it will even like dump, like buy the rumors, sell the news kind of event, right? So, but then of course, the only bad outcome for Bitcoin short term, bad outcome would be like, okay, the odds of Trump winning are very, very high. And on election night, something crazy happens and Kamala wins.
Smashes
it. Yeah, then of course we will see like a big dump. But I think like towards the election, it will already get priced in overall.
That's a good point actually, because I mean, you can see now, I think they are coming close to the final interviews. So these next few days are going to be, I think, the most important for the race, and something crazy could happen. But I want to ask you something, because I don't know if you agree with me, but based on my X following kind of timeline thing, I can see a lot of people being bearish on Ethereum lately. Do you have the same sentiment? Because I still believe Ethereum is going to do well for this cycle. But I've seen a lot of people selling their Ethereum for AVAX, Solana. I don't know. Do you agree?
I think this is just major capitulation. I think this is the capitulation event for Ethereum, because if we look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, it's already going in a downtrend for 2.5 years now. Ethereum is it's just not doing good compared to Bitcoin, that's for sure. But I think it still has a lot of value, and it still will have its time. But of course, the people who still believe in Ethereum, these ones you're not going to hear right now, because if something you believe in is not doing well, you just don't talk about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think there's still a lot of Ethereum believers out there. I'm one of them as well. But of course, it's not interesting to talk about it because it's doing so bad compared to Bitcoin, right? So I think the people that you hear are a very small percentage of people that were Ethereum bulls and are now capitulating. That's basically how I see it. You see that's a typical thing in crypto, right? If something is hot, everyone talks about it, everyone's positive about it, but you don't hear the haters. But the other way around is true. If a lot of people still believe in it, but it's performing very bad, well, then people just don't talk about it. And then it seems like the sentiment is very bad. But I think in reality, that's still okay.
I agree. Funny thing is, we were talking about memes. This morning, I've seen one of the meme coins I purchased, which was a random purchase on Ethereum, by the way, has gone quite nice. And this morning, I was like, oh, okay, I need to sell it, because I haven't checked it for a bit. So I sold half and I bought Ethereum. And I was thinking, I paid $32 in gas fee, but I was thinking, well, it's not that bad. I mean, it's all right. I mean, I don't feel it as much. But while I was doing the transaction, I was thinking, I wonder how many people are going to, well, A, invest in meme on it, because nowadays memes are on Solana only, and B, are going to take their profits into Ethereum. And I felt like I was an OG, old school, kind of guy. I don't know if you agree, but
I still use Ethereum as well, for a lot of stuff. Sometimes I just I think it's more easy to just use Ethereum main chain instead of a layer 2. And I think we don't need to forget that a lot of these things that are pretty hyped right now, they are also built on Ethereum. I mean, it's a layer 2, or we even hear about layer 3s right now, but let's leave that aside. But I mean, a lot of stuff is being built on Ethereum, but in the end, the Ethereum is still the settlement layer. And it will become maybe more of an exclusive chain for exclusive projects. But I think we can compare it to, for example, the ground layer of the internet. Right? And on that, different applications are being built. So, for example, layer 2 you can compare to, for example, a platform on which you can build your website, for example, Wix or so. You can the ground layer is still a TCP/IP, right? The protocol. Then you are building a platform on that, for example, Wix, and on Wix you can build a website. It builds up, right? But I think it's bit of a same thing for Ethereum. So it's still very, very important. And I think that will reflect in the value in the coming years still.
I agree. I mean, I think ETH is going to do extremely well. I think $8,000 is people ask me all the time, so I'm just going to give you some numbers, which doesn't make any sense. But I have to have a target if I want to have a strategy. Price is not the only metric I use, because, for example, everyone was expecting 100K previous cycle for Bitcoin, but it didn't happen. So if you were waiting to sell your Bitcoin at 100,000, well, you wouldn't have sold any. So I think having a bunch of metrics would be maybe much, much more safe. I don't know if you agree. Is there a bucket of things that you use to see when to action the DCA out into Bitcoin?
I use some metrics, but it's maybe a little bit too complicated to explain everything into detail. But it's based on 3 pillars, and one pillar is a Bitcoin price target. The second pillar is my main altcoin holdings, namely Chainlink and Ethereum. And the third one is a time-based target. So that is, let's say, a backup if one of these two are, or both of these 2 first pillars are underperforming, then I'm still getting out of the market a little bit based on a certain time that is being reached. So And if any of these three are being hit, I sell a part of my portfolio. So regardless of what the other two pillars are doing, and so this way I have like a few targets. That's very briefly explained how I do it. But yeah, I mean, like last cycle, I also expected it to go to 100K, but it didn't happen. And I think it didn't happen because of the inflation numbers and the macroeconomics that were basically not good. Otherwise, I still believe that we topped out way before we should have topped out. We literally did not have certain phases that we had the cycles before. For example, the total retail mania phase, we never had that last cycle. And I think it would have come, but of course the macroeconomics just f***ed it up and it didn't recover in time for the cycle to continue. So I think we just topped out way earlier than it normally would have if the macroeconomics didn't look like...
This time, first time we have ETFs, which I'm super excited about. I had some guests on the podcast. Some people hate ETF, some people love ETF. What's your take?
I think overall we cannot like really hate on ETFs if it's like physically backed by Bitcoin. There is not a problem. I mean, there are of course like some financial products that in theory increase the supply of Bitcoin, right? Like people, instead of buying physical Bitcoin, they buy futures. I mean, like we have futures for years already, but it's, in my opinion, these are worse than an ETF because the ETF, if you buy via there, they will get bought. They will be physically backed by real Bitcoin. So there's not a problem. I don't see the reason why they can hate on that. But there's other products like options, futures, and so on that are not backed by physical Bitcoin. And in theory, that's money that is lost. Like it's extra created Bitcoins. You can see it like that. It's not really extra created Bitcoins, but you see what I mean, right?
Yeah.
On paper, they have exposure to Bitcoin, but not to physical Bitcoin. So, I mean, I'm more skeptical towards these ones because the end result is that the supply stays the same for all the people trading options and futures.
I agree. Also, if I'm not mistaken, the ETF was already there prior US. I think we had Germany and a few in Europe. So it's not a new thing. And I don't think it would be a problem. Actually, if we want this thing, aka Bitcoin, to at least compete with gold, and as we speak, I think Bitcoin is 1.2 trillion and gold is 18 or in that numbers. I mean, without ETF, good luck. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm actually very happy ETF exists because it offers a choice. So as long as you know and you can choose, the day they'll say to me, you only can hold ETFs, well, then I won't be happy about it. But as long as I can choose, actually some people have a lot of problems in self-custody.
Of course.
And not just people, institutions, pension funds. So it's going to allow broader adoption, I think. So,
and I think you touched on a really good point. Like the smart money is not going to
buy
for example,
Trezor.
buy like a ledger or a Trezor and they put like a few million on there and put it like somewhere on their desk or so, whatever. Like that's not gonna happen. So and they even don't know how to start with that. So they're probably like careful, they're scared. Also like an ETF for them is like, okay, now it is enoughly regulated so we can buy it. So this is the way for smart money to come into our industry. And I think you also touched a great point because we already had ETPs, exchange traded products, which were in Europe and some other places in Asia. There were a few as well, but it's just a different numbers game. I mean, like compared to the inflow that we have in the ETFs in the US, I mean, like these other ETPs that came before them, it's nothing.
Significant.
Yeah, it's significantly more right now with the current ETFs. So yeah, you can definitely see this is the way to go for smart money to get their exposure to Bitcoin while not even needing to hold it themselves, and using their trusted platforms, basically. So yeah, I think it's a really good thing. It's of course there's always like these purists, these maximalists that are like very skeptical to go towards anything that is not in the vision of the CryptoPunks, let's say, like very extreme vision. But I mean, like we're developing. If we want this to catch up with the market cap of gold, do at least a 10x or more, and get towards the regions that gold is trading in value, it's simply not going to happen with the purists view that people have. Not everyone is going to hold their tokens on a ledger. That's not possible. The majority of people will hold it on an exchange, and then there's also a lot of people holding it via, for example, ETFs and so on. That's just how it works, and that's how we amass or like bring in the next 1 billion people in crypto.
I agree. And also I would like to say, easy on people, because just because you are maybe like a person who has done Bitcoin for a decade, 10 years, and you have a plan about your seed phrase, you have a plan about how to store everything. If you're a newcomer, imagine how much you have to digest to learn how to self-custody and the keys. And people say it's only 12 words. I disagree, because where do you store them? What's your plan? I mean, what happens if something happens to you and you have a wife? There is so much more behind self-custody. And if you have an ETF, it's going to allow someone who has no experience, no exposure, to maybe start with an ETF and then maybe later on say, okay, maybe I'll take a portion of that and I'll put it into my custody. So it's another way for people to be exposed. I had a chat with Matt Hogan, CIO of Bitwise, super cool guy. And by the way, they have the address. It's the only ETF who has the Bitcoin address in which it shows the funds are there, because so far nobody else has done it. I hope they will at some point, because at least you have a trace, you have an address. And he was saying, well, at this point, if you are not buying at least 1% into the ETF or into Bitcoin, you're actually shorting it, because having no position on Bitcoin is a short. We do a live show, every day, Monday to Friday. And when I have Carl and Crypto Kid, we talk about targets and numbers and trades. And people in the chat are asking me, hey, Mr. M, what's your target? Higher. It's going to be extremely difficult for me to say 180, 250, because it's like just throwing stuff on the wall at this point. I mean, there is some data we can look into it, and you are the expert on the matter because you do so much research. What I feel is going to happen is where we end up in going, 250, 180, 140, doesn't matter. The drop will be where we are now.
Probably. It could be that like next bear market, we end up at where we are right now. That's possible. But I think I like to do some kind of predictions based on data, also based a little bit on, I would not say it's purely data based. It's more combination with gut feeling. For example, what I think will be different compared to last cycle, because people think like, okay, it's diminishing returns, right? So it will be a less increase than previous cycle, and previous cycle did more or less a 25x, more or less, from the bottom, right? 3,000, we hit 3,000 in the bear market, then got like to 60K plus. But I think we would have gone a lot higher. So I would not be surprised if we see a 20x compared to the bear market we had right now.
300K, more or less.
Exactly. So yeah, we more or less went to 15K in the bear market. So a top, maybe around 300K, but of course I'm not counting on that. For my own targets, my last target will be 250. And from that point onwards, is, as I said, the 30% holdings that I'm not touching. Or if it doubles in price and I'm taking still a little bit extra off. But yeah, I mean, my targets, they start just above all-time high, previous all-time high, and previous all-time high was in 60K. So my first target is actually 85K to take off a little bit already. And then it goes gradually up to my second target is 120K, third target is 190K, just under the 200K, which is a psychological level. And then the fourth target is actually like 250K, as I just mentioned. So I calculated based on that, but it's a combination of data and also like just looking at previous cycle that didn't play out how we thought it would. So I think we will compensate a little bit for that. So it's a combination of different things. But I mean, nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball, but at least we need to do some estimations to make some targets to take profit. And of course, like I'm not sure about this 300K. Maybe we top out at 180K. Maybe we top out at 600K. I mean, it's all possible, but we need to do some estimation otherwise you're not going to take profits at all.
Exactly, I agree. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I have a gut feeling which is it's telling me that this cycle, people are going to take profit too early because we have PTSD from the previous cycle. And the previous cycle, we didn't get to 100K.
Good point.
So I feel like everyone, myself included, is going to come in way too early because of what happened in the previous cycle. So this time I will for sure have a portion in play for when it comes to the top, and I will take profits for sure. And I will aim to get in between that 15-20% cash, which I'm going to need for the next 4 years. And then if it happens to be a super cycle, well, then freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to be sad about taking profit. If you take profit, it's never a bad idea, I don't think. So as long as you have a plan, like you said, and you action it, and then you can pivot the plan depending on what happens. I mean, also on the sentiment, how do you feel about retail? Because views on YouTubes are in the bin. There is no new people coming in the market. So do you think they will come back at some point?
I'm very sure they will come back at some point. But unfortunately, and that's reality, they are the last group of people that come back and that come in. So of course there is always a little bit of like retail buying, but we see that it's mainly driven by bigger institutions and then these ETFs and so on. What happened in the past year, right? The increase of past year is mainly because of that, not because of the small group of retail that decided to get in. Congratulations to them, because it was a good time to get in. But the majority of the retail and the price that will be retail driven, that's for the last stage of the cycle. So I think we also, last cycle again, I think we did not see the retail mania that we saw in the cycles before, but I think we will see it again right now, and it will maybe like cause the price to go way higher than people expect. But I think it's just very important, as you said, like to just take profits because, and also like hold a little bit of cash position, because otherwise you're not going to be able to think straightforward. I mean, during a bull market, it's such a crazy FOMO that catches everything, including me and you. We also get like lost in the FOMO. We get lost in like the hype and the chaos of that moment, that you just need to decide on your targets before that moment and stick to them. Or like pivot them a little bit. I agree, we can pivot them because of several factors that can feel different, and that's okay. But I think it's just important at least to not to take profits pretty early on already, and just secure a little bit already for your own peace of mind and for your ability to think straightforward. I think it's super important.
I think we should have a group, like a couple of friends into a WhatsApp or whatever, Telegram group. We can call it mastermind, whatever. And then we say to each other, hey, profit. Because if I promise you that I will do it, I will do it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I'll be by myself and I'll look at, and then greed kicks in, because it's always like this. And you go, oh, but it can go higher. And then if I don't have anyone who keeps me in check, I won't sell a portion of my bags, because I'm not going to sell all my Bitcoins. Definitely not. But I'll have a portion that I need for the next cycle. And we were discussing it off camera earlier. I've been in a place where my entire net worth has been, I mean, technically, if you don't sell, you don't lose it. But the perception of the number, it's different. And when you go from 1,000 to 10,000, it hits you. 10,000 to 100,000, it hits you. 100,000 to 1,000,000, it's always higher. And then you need to think about, okay, how do I protect myself? How do I make sure that at least if something happens, I have cash to do whatever I need to do? So maybe having a mastermind group where I can promise you guys, or we can promise each other, like some sort of like a, I don't know, psychiatrist, whatever you want to call it, which we say, hey, it's time now. You promised. 2% now you have to sell.
Everyone needs to put their targets there. Like, okay, I'm taking this percentage of profits at this target. And then we need to put someone like in charge of like checking this, put this in an Excel sheet or so, like with reminders and stuff. Like, yeah.
And then if it doesn't happen, we're going to shame them in the chat. Shame. You said you would have done it. I don't know, maybe that's a technique. But Quinten, man, it's been a pleasure.
Same. Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, we need to do it again. Guys, as always, in the comments down below, you will find Quinten's Twitter account, which you have to go and follow. I'm sure you already do, but if you don't, check it out. It's one of my favorite. And of course, I'll link your social media and everything else.
Thank you, Maurizio.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.